I asked the House a week ago to suspend its judgment because the facts were not clear. But I do not feel that for any reason now exists why we should not form our own opinions upon this pitiful episode. The surrender of the Belgian army compelled the British at the shortest notice to cover a flank from the sea more than 30 miles in length. Otherwise, all would have been cut off. And I would have shared in the fate to which King Leopold had condemned the finest army in the country had ever formed. So the operations on this map, you will see, contact was lost between the British and 2 out of 3 corps remaining from the 1st French army, who was still farther from the coast than we were. And it seemed impossible that any large number of Allied troops could reach the coast. When a week ago today, I asked the House to fix this afternoon as the occasion for a statement, I feared it would be my hard lot to announce the greatest military disaster in our long history. I thought, and some good judgment agreed with me, that perhaps 20 or 30,000 men might be re-embarked, but it certainly seemed that the whole of the French force and the whole British expeditionary force north of the Abbeville Gap would be broken up in the field, or else would have been capitulated for lack of food and ammunition. These were hard and heavy tidings for which I called upon the House and the nation to prepare themselves a week ago. The whole root and core and brain of the British Army, on which and around which we were to build and are to build the greatest British armies in the later years of the war, seems about to perish on the field or be led ignominiously in starving captivity. The army attacked from all sides with great strength and fierceness, and their main power, their far more numerous air force, was thrown into battle, or else concentrated upon Dunkirk and the beaches, pressing it the narrow exit from the sea and from the far west. The enemy began to fire with cannon upon the beaches, which alone the shipping could approach or depart. They sowed magnetic mines in the channels and seas. They sent repeated waves of hostile aircraft, sometimes more than 100, strong in one formation, cast their bombs upon single pier that remained, and upon the sand dunes upon which troops had their eyes for shelter. Their U-boats, one of which was sunk, and their motor launches took their toll of the vast traffic which now began. For 5 days an intense struggle reigned. All their armored divisions, or what was left of them, together with the great masses of infantry and other contracting appendix within which the British and French armies fought. Meanwhile, the Royal Navy, willing to help the countless merchant seamen, strained every nerve to embark the British and Allied troops. 220 light warships, 650 other vessels were engaged. They had operated upon difficult coasts, often in adverse weather, under almost ceaseless hail of bombs and increasing concentration of artillery fire. Nor were the seas, as I have said, themselves free from mines and torpedoes. It was a condition such as these that our men carried on with little or no rest, for days and nights on end, making trip after trip across the dangerous waters, bringing with them always men whom they had rescued. The number they had brought back a measure of their devotion and their courage. The hospital ships, which brought thousands of British and French wounded, began plainly marked, were a special target for Nazi bombs, but the men and women on board never faltered in their duty. It was a great trial for German air forces. You can conceive a greater objective for the Germans in the air than you make evacuations from these beaches. Impossible to sink all the ships which were displayed. Almost extent of thousands could have been there. An objective for greater military importance and significance. Well, the whole purpose of the war was this then. They tried hard, and they were beaten back. They were frustrated in the task. We got the army away, and we have paid fourfold for any losses which they have inflicted. Very large formations of German aeroplanes, and we all know that they were very brave race, have turned on several occasions from the attack. 1/4 of the number of the Royal Air Force have dispersed in different directions. 12 aeroplanes have been hunted by 2. Aeroplanes was driven into the water and cast away by a mere charge of British airplane, which had no more ammunition. All of our types, the Hurricanes, the Spitfires, and the new Defiant, all of our pilots have been vindicated as superior to what they had presence to face. We consider how much greater would be our advantage in the defense of the air above the islands against an overseas attack. I must say that I find in these facts a sure basis upon which practical and reassuring thoughts were made. I will pay my tribute to these young airmen. These great French army was largely, for the time being, cast back and distributed by onrush of a few thousand armored vehicles. May it not be also the cause of the civilization itself will be defending by the skill and devotion of a few thousand airmen? There never has been, I suppose, in all the world's history of war, such an opportunity for youth. The Knights of the Round Table, the Crusaders, all fall back into the past, non-distant, prosaic. These young men going forth every morning to guard their native land and all that stands for, holding in their hands these instruments of colossal and shattering power, of whom it may be said that every morning brought forth a noble chance, and every chance brought forth a noble knight. They deserve our gratitude, as do all brave men who in so many ways, on so many occasions are ready and continue to be ready to give life for their native country. I have myself in full confidence that all do their duty. If nothing is neglected, the best arrangements are made as they are being made. We shall prove ourselves once again to be able to defend our island home, to ride out the storm of war, and to be outlived the menace of tyranny. This is necessary for many years, if necessary alone. At any rate, that is what we're going to try to do. That is our resolve of His Majesty's government, every man of them. This is the will of Parliament and the nation. The British Empire, the French Republic, linked together in their cause and their need. We will defend to the death of their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of our strengths. Even though large tax of group and old and famous states have fallen in Europe or may fall, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas. We shall fight in the oceans. We will fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight in the landings, on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and the streets. We shall fight on the hills. We shall never surrender. And if which I do not for a moment believe. This island, or large part of it, was subjugated and starving. Then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in good God's name the new world with all its power and might steps forth and rescues the liberation of the old. That's my speech. Went a little bit too long. Sorry. That was by Winston Churchill to the House of Commons in 1940.